Off the rip, I will just say I like this rune page more. Annie as a support, again, we know her most commonly played as a assassin one-shot mid laner, but we're playing her as like a enchanter playstyle with the ability to still engage. So we're maxing E. We're getting an enchanter item to start the game. We're going to be going into Shurelia's. If I had to guess, the build should still be the same, but I believe it's Shurelia's into Rylai's with CDR. Echoes of Hylia, really? Okay. Now, I guess this does make sense, though, right? Because you are doing a lot of damage. Annie Caitlyn, I think this is like a combo that works, just a little bit unconventional. It's like the same concept as like Caitlyn Lux, Caitlyn Morgana, stun into trap. Your stun is long enough to the point that she should be able to ideally trap as long as she's following up properly. Aphelios Amumu, as long as you're not giving Amumu like free engages, it should be pretty fine to play in this lane, which you laughed, so I'm assuming maybe we have a Amumu problem this game. But we'll see.
I struggled a bit with Amumu, only right at the beginning. For the record, the reason I took Glacial Augment this game was hoping that it would give Caitlyn a little more time to get traps down.
Gotcha. Okay. So I actually did a coaching session off stream earlier today, and it was with a master tier player. And I was kind of picking his brain a lot through the game. And what I realized is players like you and this other player that I coached earlier today, you guys are smart. You guys have really good game sense. And I feel like sometimes you like are overthinking. Like I love the fact that you're thinking that way. Like, oh, I have this synergy with Caitlyn. I want to be able to stun into traps. So giving Glacial might give a little bit of extra time for her to land that trap. I love the fact that you're thinking this way, but I still think that Aerie is going to be the better option. So instead, just like default to the other option of Aerie, just because I think it makes more sense and has a higher win rate for a reason. Also, did you call for this invade as well?
Yeah, I did.
I'm loving everything I'm seeing so far. Being active on the map level 1, using the fact that you have a stun level 1 now.
Yeah, this one doesn't work out, unfortunately, but most of the time it has.
Now I want to check here. So you did level Q already. So the one thing I will say is, even if we're looking for this invade, you're a high enough, elo player. You're D2 trying to get to Masters, right? You're good enough to the point that if you were to run into them and you haven't leveled anything up, you can level up your Q and still use it in time, right? People who are like lower ranked players, that might be a little slow for them, so maybe they need to level up Q ahead of time. So what I'm telling you is to try to get into a better habit of not leveling up an ability until you know what it is that you're going to need. And that's just because level 1 as Annie, you can actually start E, similar to like how you would play Milio. You said like rank 10 Milio in NA or something, right? So if you start E as Milio, you can just shield yourself, walk up, and start throwing auto attacks, and you have a good chance to win that trade, right? You can kind of do that same thing on Annie. A lot of champions that also have shields level 1, so like Lulu, Janna, I'm sure you're familiar. So you can get E level 1 for the trade. That's why I think you don't need to level up Q here. And then on top of that, what that allows you to do is level 2 on Annie. If you start E, you'll still have your stun available, right? So if you start Q level 1 on Annie and you go for a trade, you might get a good trade, but then it's really hard to stack up your passive again so that you have your passive when you hit level 2. In a perfect world, we're starting E, we're trading a little bit level 1, hopefully winning the trade, hopefully getting level 2 before them, then leveling up Q, and we still have our passive ready, right? And another thing here in this matchup specifically, I'm sure as you know, Amumu's Q doesn't go through minions, so if we could play around the minions a lot. Okay. And here we go.
Yeah, bad start.
Yep. So again, you said that one of the things you were struggling with as Annie is like your ability to play aggressive, right? And one of the main things that you'll continue to hear me repeating throughout this game is Annie, we know as a one-shot assassin mid laner, but when we play her as a support, we're not playing her as such. So this is not the same Annie that we know from like when you were first playing the game and playing against Annie bot and you thought it was the strongest champion in the game, right? It's a completely different playstyle. So we have to actually respect the level 1. We have to respect the fact that we're not just like an assassin. We can't kill everybody. So we're playing a little far back. I think just zoning them a little bit and like standing next to your Caitlyn is fine enough in itself because it's 2 ranged against 1 range and a melee. So Aphelios is already going to be threatened, even if you're just standing back here, right? So we're just standing up a little too far up, trying to be threatening when it's not really worth it. Another thing that I always like to talk about is you have to consider when you're going for a play, what is the worst case scenario? What is the best case scenario? So, best case scenario here, you get this auto attack off on Aphelios, you proc your Spell Thieves, you back up, that's it, right? Worst case scenario, Amumu goes in, lands his Q, you almost get killed, you burn all your sums, and you're in a lot of trouble, right? So it's just not a trade that's really worth for us. So we need to really figure out, like, when we're going for these plays, is it actually worth it for me to go for this? Like, what's the upside? Upside, landing an auto attack and proccing Spell Thieves, not going to be all that worth, right? Here, I think you actually might have been able to stick around just because you have those potions, and it's so early in the game that those potions will heal up quite a bit, but I think it's also okay to recall here. Were we able to get a control word, anything? Another potion or two, maybe? Hopefully your Caitlyn plays this safe. That's good flash, okay. Now let's see, do they recall here, or are they just hanging out in a bush? You got to be careful, because if they're in a bush, yep. So we got a little lucky there, right? I think here, it's safe to assume that they're probably in a bush. Yeah, we see them kind of walking up. I think this is a little scary to walk forward this early. We also don't want to get into a habit of playing, like, really far back and then randomly going up, because then we'll give something away, right? And we know Twitch is invis. So they have no idea that Twitch is here right now, so we can actually play this really, really slow. I think we walk up a little early. If I'm them, I mean, there's two things that I'm thinking right now if I'm them. One, Annie's trying to stop our recall right now if we're in a bush, or two, Twitch is definitely here, right? So I think we kind of get lucky that they go in and miss, because this could go really bad. But we're here. Ignite goes off early. We land the Q. We don't have our stun, which, that's okay. Does Twitch just get one shot? We're going to go back and watch this again. I also wonder, was there a way? I don't think there's any way you can get your stun here, right? Other than, like, maybe using your E on the way to lane, which is something that I'll also put an emphasis on. We'll see as the game goes on if you're using your abilities in the base to try to come out with passive every single time. But here, it's so early in the game, it's pretty tough to have your passive. So I think you do what you can. You're in range, you follow this up, you get the Ignite off. They kind of just one-shot your ADC, or your Twitch, which it is what it is. Caitlyn gets the kill. Good job using the E first to land the stun after. Kind of just messed up the trap timing there, but that was good. We'll take that. 1 for 1, but, you know, Caitlyn got a kill. You guys are going to push this wave in. I think this is all fine. Okay, here. No potions. Okay, you just used a potion. We have no way to get our stun up. I think the only way to win this is to try to go through her. Damn, that was really close, honestly. Okay, I don't think there's too much to nitpick there. Maybe even mixing in auto attacks, but you're just so low here. I don't know if that's even something you could have done. Here, I feel like there was a roam timer here. Maybe, just because we see that Amumu is on a recall, right? So we know that Caitlyn, if she goes back to lane, is only going to have to deal with an Aphelios potentially. We didn't get a control ward here, which let me go back and see how much you had. 400, like this to me, doesn't matter what supporter I'm playing unless it's someone like Yuumi. I'm probably just going to go boots and a control ward here. And that's because we want to try to get vision on the map as soon as possible. And especially that would synergize really well with a roam here. Instead we go Ruby Crystal. I still think I like boots and control ward more. And then ideally here, coming out of base, even here, like you saw that they were both in lane, but now you see Mumu's recalling. Okay, that means that Caitlyn's safe to go to lane by herself. I could potentially get a roam off. I think a control ward here, and then maybe a trinket ward on the other side over here somewhere to protect this control ward. Gets you some good vision. If that's all that you accomplish, that's fine. But you could also potentially look mid here. Wave's kind of a little bit on their side, but pretty even. Xerath may not have the ability to kill with you coming in, but Twitch is also here, right? So we want to get into a habit of roaming just to give us possibilities to accomplish something. Maybe we just come and we get vision. That's all good. Maybe we look mid and we get a flash. That's something. Maybe we look mid and we get a kill. Even better, right? But none of that's possible if we don't give ourselves the opportunity to roam. At this point, I'm really not feeling all too confident in the 2v2 unless Amumu goes in and like misses a Q, then we could possibly look to play a little bit more aggressive. I will challenge you to try to stay up in the wave with your ADC though, just because you're not much of a threat back here. I understand that like the lane phase is pretty boring right now, but still you're always a little bit more of a threat just by standing up in here with your ADC in the wave. Also against the Amumu, going back to like what I was saying level 1, right? Where you kind of stepped up here into the bush, you're just as much of a threat if you're back in the minion wave, which prevents Amumu from landing Qs. And additionally, here we see Amumu mid, which, again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, if you roam, maybe you're there for that. But Amumu is mid now, so we need to be up here. Aphelios is not allowed to exist in this lane anymore, which I see you taking advantage of that. This is beautiful. And that also is a big factor when it comes to, like, helping set up ganks. It's a little bit different in this game because you have a Twitch, so they're probably not going to see, like, the ganks coming anyways. But if you're consistently playing up or consistently playing back, the second something changes, they're going to know something's up, right? So if you're consistently playing back here, and then all of a sudden you're playing up here, they're going to know, okay, we're probably getting ganked, someone's coming, right? You want to play consistent, and if you're playing consistently, they'll never know what your next move is. Because if you're always playing aggressively, like within your wave, they're not going to know the difference if your jungler is here or if they're not here. Now, another thing that I talked about earlier today when I did a different coaching session, this applies more so for people who are like in lower ranks, but I still tried to apply this in higher ranks too. Just the idea of like pushing the wave under tower and why that's so good. Obviously, again, in higher ranks, ADCs are good enough that they are pretty good at last hitting, but it's all about applying pressure. So if this wave is under their tower, Aphelios has to worry about you poking him. He has to worry about Caitlyn hitting him. He has to watch for his own tower. He has to watch out for ganks. And he has to also focus on last hitting, right? So it's just a lot of factors there. So just anytime you see an opportunity to push them under tower and create that pressure and make it a little bit harder for the ADC to consistently last hit, that's always going to be a good thing. Again, this is something that is better for players in lower ranks because lower rank players struggle even more with last hitting. It still applies a little bit more for higher ranked players, I would say.
So, okay, I actually want to stop you for a minute there and just ask this question, because my feeling, I think, in this game, and I have this pretty generally, is that given especially the Caitlyn and the Annie, we have a lot of pressure to keep them away from the wave. So wouldn't we prefer to try to pull the wave back and freeze it and then crash a wave and go for a dragon?
I think Caitlyn is just super good at sieging, though. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if you see an opportunity to be in a winning position in the lane, you're winning more by pushing and taking plates than like freezing and potentially denying a couple minions. That's kind of how I look at it. And even then, if you could push a wave hard enough, you could still rotate and get dragon. But also, even now in this state of the game, I don't know if you guys are necessarily like a whole lot stronger in the 2v2. And it's pretty hard to all in. I gave that comparison like really early on into the game, how like, you know, it's similar concept to Morgana Lux, Morgana with Caitlyn and Lux with Caitlyn. It's just a little bit harder to pull off just because you have to get so much closer to pull your engage off. So I think both could work. I just always like the idea of pushing, getting plates, especially with the Caitlyn lane. Good ward here, by the way, to catch out the Kindred. I like that a lot.
I usually try to go over the wall, but I felt it was too dangerous this time. Yeah,
so we knew Kindred was here somewhere. I would assume she's on Gromp. She is. They're looking like a push into Dragon. Honestly, this looks like a give. Wave's pretty stacked against us. Your Twitch is top side. It's looking pretty rough. I think it's okay to give one dragon, though. I'm not all too worried about that. Okay, so we know that they're on it, even though we can't see it. Kind of have to worry about a dive here, but I don't see them pulling it off. Also worried about a bush cheese potentially, which is why we're a little bit further back. I like the tri-bush ward here. We're kind of just playing safe right now. We see the plant get hit, so Kindred's probably behind you guys. Now we're just focusing on thinning out this wave, trying to get it pushed out, not letting it crash too hard on us because we're worried about Kindred coming behind us and diving us. That would be my main concern here. Got to be worried about Amumu here. Got to be worried about Kindred here. Ouch. Okay. Okay, so this is just one of those things, like, again, I said this earlier, if you talk to other support players, they might give you a different, like, way of seeing the game. I'm the type of person who wants to think, if I'm not in a position to carry the game, like, if I'm not in a position to win my team the game, let me put my team in a position where I'm not the reason we lost the game. So I'm just not really confident in this lane right now. Like, again, I said, I'm not sure you guys win 2v2, but maybe we can, like, push and get plates. However, Twitch is topside. I had a pretty good feeling Kindred is maybe around here somewhere. Maybe she just took this. I'm pretty confident Amumu might be here. You guys are weak side because you even pointed out yourself. Yasuo is hard winning. Twitch is here. So I am looking to just play weak side, send under my tower, try to thin the wave out as possible, prevent like them diving on us, anything like that. So I think this here is just maybe not being aware of the fact that Amumu might be here. And then it's just a wombo combo kind of thing. So, I mean, Caitlyn kind of has the right idea, tries to drop the trap, but maybe it's just better to be safer here. Now, if we're in this position, best thing to do, maybe just Q the Aphelios and back out, try to prevent him from following up, which let's see if that's what we do. Use the W, which actually is a 2-man stun, so you're even smarter than I am. But now I'm still worried about Kindred behind us.
Yeah.
Which I think you have the right idea. Okay.
So I'm thinking about this. I think the problem that I'm experiencing here is that I'm trying to bait out Amumu's Q because I'm feeling like if I want to accomplish anything, I need to get rid of at least one of them. And yeah, I think in retrospect, that's just a poor idea. I do think I have a hard time just sitting back and kind of
it really does suck. Trust me. Like, we play video games to have fun more times than not. And sometimes sitting under your tower doing nothing is not fun. But personally, I think winning is really fun. So I am okay having the mindset of, okay, I'm going to play weak side here. I'm going to let my top side carry. And yes, it's not fun, but it'll help my team win the game, right? Also, going back to this Amumu Q, right, where you're like, oh, I just want to bait out the Q because I feel like I can't do anything unless he misses it. Going back to that same thing I was talking about earlier, what's the best case scenario here? What's the worst case scenario here? Best case scenario, he misses the Q. Maybe that opens up a window of opportunity for you guys to do something. He lands the Q. He didn't even land on you. He landed on the Caitlyn, but still, same thing. This is now the result, right? This is another roaming opportunity here. I want you to try to just get into a good habit of, as soon as you come out of base, for whatever reason it may be, if you recalled, if you died, whatever it may be, immediately run this direction. I am of the belief that this area, like river, is where the support is generally responsible for controlling vision, and this is more so like the ADC's responsibility. So ideally, your control word is set somewhere over here. ADC will put their control word or vision here. Of course, once you complete your support quest, you can also help out with the vision here, like here, and in the jungle as you did earlier. But just try to get into a good habit of running here. That way, you can at least, at the bare minimum, get vision. If not, something else could also occur. Maybe you team up with your jungler. Maybe you run into the enemy jungler. Maybe you spot out them doing dragon. Maybe you can go mid. Maybe none of those happen, but just by going this direction, you give yourself the opportunity to be there if something were to present itself. Especially, actually, in a situation like this game where we are not too confident in the bot lane matchup. Like, we're not having a great time down here. So, try to have an impact in other lanes.
Yeah, it's going wrong, bail out. Okay, I think my thought process on this one was that the wave was on our side and was going to be pushing into them. And I think that my general looking at that wave state is that I feel like I need to help her because otherwise she'll get stranded. But
gotcha. Yeah, I mean,
I think that she had plenty of time, and I could have pulled off a roam.
Yeah,
and then gotten back in time to help.
I would say, like, and this is honestly like a bit of a flaw, I would say, in my own gameplay, because I'm so one-dimensional. The fact that I am always just running out here immediately, like, honestly, if people played up against me enough, they would just sit in this bush or sit in this bush, and I would just run here every time, and they'd kill me, honestly. But it's just a good habit that I like to try to get into, and a lot of people won't catch on to it, right? And honestly, if we're going to look at the bright side, right, Caitlyn has 1 kill, Aphelios has 1 kill, and you guys are only down 10 CS. So we're doing a pretty good job of playing weak side right now. Now, one thing that I will be looking out for is Amumu might actually get a little impatient, force something on you guys, or try to roam. And in those situations, we can actually capitalize. Because you got to think, you know, you don't enjoy like playing a boring playstyle. Well, if you're playing boring, they're probably bored as well, and then they might be the ones to get impatient. I actually do think you had a bit of an opportunity here. You do land it. I like that. Good stuff here. So, I mean, I feel like this was perfect time because well, it's perfect time because I was just talking about how like they might get bored and then they mess up, right? So, again, something I said earlier, I would rather be patient, wait for the right opportunity to strike, make one play and make that play count, rather than, you know, some people who are going to try and try and try again and like try to like pull off a fight 10 times and maybe it works one time, but the other 9 times it goes poorly, right? I will just say, like, obviously Tibbers is better to initiate because it's instant, right? So it gives them less time to react, whereas the Q, even if you get it off, it takes some time to travel to them, so they'll be able to maybe flash away or reposition or whatever it may be. Tibbers also is AoE, obviously, so we have the ability to do stuff like this where it's a multi-man stun. I'm just giving you this piece of advice for future reference if we ever find ourselves in a situation where someone is clearly mispositioned and you can just simply use your E on yourself, get that movement speed, and walk up to them. There's never any reason to use Tibbers first when we can simply point and click stun. We'll always do that, but this is beautifully played. I think you did everything correct here. Again, just giving you this piece of advice for future reference if you ever did need to go in, just guarantee with the Q, right? Again, though, really good job playing weak side, playing smart, playing patient, wait for them to make a mistake, and then we punish them for it. So now, like, you guys are instantly back in this game, maybe even stronger. This concerns me, though. I'll try not to point out mistakes that your teammates make all too much because we are here to help you. But this here, I just feel like we never want to fight after we got that kill bot side. I just want to, like, push and recall. Good job getting him out of there, though. All right, so here, again, I'm already looking to roam here if I'm used. Here, again, I'm okay with roaming here because your Caitlyn is going to be here to grab this wave. The wave is not, like, in a terrible spot. I think, honestly, Amumu is on a recall. I don't think he's in a bush here, but now I'm looking at the rift here. So what I probably would have done is I would have been roaming here. I would have been around here somewhere. And then as soon as this rift crashes, honestly, I'm probably still not going bot because this tower is already gone, right?
Yeah.
I probably would have just looked to have, like, made a play mid or something like that. We're going to let this whole play play out, and then we'll go back and see what we could have done differently. Twitch is having a rough game.
Yeah, she played that very well.
She did.
Can't believe that reaction time even now.
You do have to give credit where credit's due, and that was well played.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, before this fight happened, I probably would have been roaming mid. Once I saw the rift dropped, my thought process is this tower is gone. There's no need to be here. So at the end of the day, you guys are standing here, and we only want to fight if there's something to fight for, typically. This tower is no longer our tower. This is gone, so there's not really anything to fight for anymore here. So this isn't a fight I would have been here anyways, like, to start with. I probably would have been looking mid to maybe, like, get some vision around Dragon or potentially look mid for a kill. But we're here anyway, so let's see how we play it. Okay, we stun, we run away. I think the play's kind of dead. Caitlyn's still auto-attacking. This is all played fine so far. I mean, I guess Twitch just kind of gets blown up here. Even here. Yeah, I mean, I probably would have done the same thing there. The only possible thing I can think of that would be different here is you could, right here, I don't even know if this is what you did or not. Instead of using flash R, you can R here first and then flash over the wall. And that way, as soon as your flash goes off, the R will then go off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only thing. And this is so quick that I don't even know. No, this looks like a flash ulti. Yeah, that is the only thing I could possibly think of here that would have gotten the kill here is if you press R here, then flash. That way, that split second, and you did this pretty quick to the point that I couldn't even really tell if you had done it, if you had done flash R or R flash. But that is the only thing I could possibly think of here. That split second, though, is all it took.
Yeah,
and that's, again, a lot of credit to them. And then at this point, we're kind of out of the fights. The only other thing I will point out is this took me a while to figure out when I was playing Annie. So if you already have this down, that's okay. But just wanted to put it out there. Using Tibbers in fights. They buffed Tibbers a while ago. That boy is beefy. So just make sure, like, it's kind of hard here because you're like 1 HP and you're trying to run out and survive. But just try to be mindful of Tibbers, especially like, you know, that situation I spoke about earlier where like you go in, you use your full combo, you want to back up a little bit and wait for your abilities, like your next rotation to come up. In that meantime, while you're repositioning yourself, you can also position Tibbers because him just being tanky, having that Molten Shield on him, and slapping people in the face, it's going to be really annoying and difficult to deal with for them. So make sure you're working on that as well. What is the mindset here while we're staying on the map? Are you just trying to get some wards off before you recall?
I can't remember if I was pinged or no. I don't think so. I think my thing was just trying to get vision on Dragon for Twitch, but that's just a stupid mistake. I think I'm a little tilted at this point, actually.
Gotcha. Yeah, so this is another one of those situations. Best case scenario, you walk over here, maybe you get some vision of them doing Dragon. Cool. Worst case scenario, they have vision of you and you're 1 HP and you die. So again, just be mindful of that. Nothing bad came out of it, but we need to be mindful of these things. Also, good job. Always, whenever you're recalling and you got Tibbers out, might as well send them out on like a scouting mission just to see if you can find anybody, run into anybody, right? So good job there.
Cool.
All right, we are roaming for once. Now this game feels tough just because of the way things have been going in the bot side, but we're only down 2k at this point in time. We're here to match, that's fine. It doesn't really feel like you have too many wards on the map right now, so that would be one of the things I'd be working on right now. It's fine to hover for this wave. One thing that I was told, and I was told this by Tarzan a couple years ago when I was playing on Twitch Rivals with him, hovering someone is fine, but you don't have to do so while standing like right on top of them or in the wave. So if someone is farming a wave here, it's okay to just be a little bit out of line of sight. You're still in range to get that XP, but you don't need to just be like standing on top of them, right? Like someone could be here, you could be here, right? You know, your ADC could be here, you could be here. You don't always need to be right on top of them. So that would be like a nitpick for you there. As for your vision, again, we always want to try to have some vision on the map, even if it's not the greatest of vision. Just have something down is better than nothing. I don't know how to tell when Rift Herald is up in the spectate mode, but they just took Dragon. So if I had to assume, the next play on the map is probably going to be topside. I don't think we really need to be here anymore. I honestly think the lane assignments are a little messed up. I would imagine that their bot side isn't going to be going bot anymore, right? Amumu's here. Don't see Aphelios yet. But the way that this game...
rotating Xerath bot.
Yeah, I think mid laners should be matching bot, and you guys should probably be up here somewhere, especially since Dragon was just taken. I would assume the next play on the map is probably going to be Rift, so getting you on this side of the map just to get vision around here would be helpful, especially for a situation like this where like Kindred's invading. If we have vision of Kindred invading and potentially who is or isn't around her, we can capitalize on this and you know, get a kill, potentially turn that into something.
Right.
So I think this is just like lane assignments getting a little messed up, and this is a little unfortunate because they're gonna go for this play. Good shutdown actually, but I'm a little concerned about how this goes just because you and Caitlyn get here a little late. We're gonna let this whole fight play out, and then we'll go back and break it down. But yeah, I think lane assignments got a little bit mixed up here. Is that the end of it, or are we still going? We're still going.
I think it kept on for a while, actually.
Okay, this fight actually went a lot better than I would have ever thought.
Yeah, I think Yasuo played it really quite well.
Okay, so we have a lot to break down here. Again, lane assignments got mixed up. If Rift Herald is the next play on the map, and this tower's already gone, I don't see any reason for you and Caitlyn to be bot side, so you guys got here a little late. I also think this fight goes better if your vision is already in this area. If we're already, like, you know, being proactive and thinking, okay, where is the next fight going to potentially be, and we know that it's topside, when this fight breaks out, if you have vision of where they are, where they're coming in from, all that kind of stuff, it's much more likely that you guys will win the fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep going back. So
Yeah,
fight breaks out. Go ahead.
I have another Annie game further back in my history that I went 5-0-12, and I'm almost tempted to just take like another session sometime and go over that one briefly, because I feel like a large part of my problem on this champion particularly is that when I'm up tempo, I know how to capitalize on it, but when I'm falling behind, you see a lot of my play on here is very reactive.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I never felt like I tilted super bad, but I'm seeing a lot of it here.
Yeah, a couple things that come to mind. One, it's easier to be reactive if you're using vision properly. Like, this play happens because we see Kindred invading and she's already in our jungle, right? Whereas if we have vision in this area, we can react sooner and give ourselves the upper hand. Like, I think that's what a lot of people don't quite understand about vision. Like, vision isn't just like, okay, I want to get vision so I can see that they're doing dragon. Like, no, we want vision of them coming to dragon. That way we can punish them once they get there, right? So everything goes back to, okay, where's my vision going to be? So when you come out of the base, where's the next play? Okay, I know they just did dragon. There's no tower bot side, so the next play is probably going to happen around Rift or maybe top or mid tower, because that's the next objective for them. So if we get our vision down, we can react properly. So that is just one thing that'll help. Another thing is, again, just playing patient, waiting for people to make mistakes, and Annie's really good at punishing people for mispositioning. Also, looking at this team comp specifically, this looks like a front to back kind of team comp. Unless Yasuo can somehow dive into the backline with an ulti as he does in this fight, you guys don't really have much like tank engage or anything like that. Actually, you guys have none of that. So I can mainly see this being like Malphite and Amumu go in, and you guys like have to go through the front line first because you guys have a lot of damage but don't have a front line of yourself. In this situation, again, Yasuo dives to the back line and Kindred oversteps. So as Annie, that's kind of your responsibility. They go in. As long as you're positioned well, you're looking to kind of fight back and go front to back. Even if you're just ulting and stunning their front line, that's okay.
Okay, that is something I actually wanted to ask you about. Is that like in a position where I have, say, like a sort of a mid tank or a bruiser diving in, is it okay to drop Tibbers on them, blow the stun, and just sort of play backline? Because I've felt a lot of pressure to try to get onto critical targets.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy you brought that up. You have to realize, again, I keep talking about this, so sorry to sound like a broken record, but Annie as support is not your assassin that you're used to seeing, right? If you're playing Annie mid lane, you're full AP, you have a lot of income, you have a lot of items. If you go in and one-shot their ADC, and then you die as a result, that's okay. You kind of did your job, right? But as Annie support, your job is to play with your ADC, stay alive, and keep putting that shield on them, right? So that they're consistently getting that movement speed and they have that shield, right? So if you're diving into the backline, not only are you not able to position with your ADC and play around them, but also you're not going to have enough damage to one-shot the ADC that you're up against, right? So your job is more so to be positioned with your ADC, and that mainly means you're probably hitting the front line. So yes, it's 100% okay to just hit the Amumu or the Malphite or whoever it is that's running at you guys, because you want to be able to position with your ADC. Now, that's not to say that if you find an opportunity, like you're playing around Vision really well, or you're trying to turn at Baron and you have Flash, absolutely. If you see an opportunity, those Annie instincts that you might have from seeing people play as a mid laner, you can flash and get a 3-man ulti on some carries. That's beautiful, right? That is going to be worth it, but that's not like the main objective when you're playing Annie support. All right, so let's focus in on you here. A little late to this fight. This is a good Tibbers. A little spooky just because we're walking so far forward, but a lot of the focus is on Yasuo, so we already took a little bit of damage. Just pointing this out for future reference, because like walking this far forward when you don't have any backup, you're very vulnerable here. So if Yasuo was dead half a second earlier and they just turned all their focus on you, you might have died here. But overall, good understanding of like your capability, knowing that you could walk up here. Kind of scared of the Victor, so that's okay. I think your positioning is pretty good here for the most part. I wanted to point this out real quick. It is pretty tough to position as Annie sometimes because she's a pretty low range mage. But you use your ulti, you're backing out, you're repositioning with your team. Scared of the Victor, cooldowns come back up. You're just enough in range to get this off. This is a really well played fight by you. And you're sticking with your team, right? So now we can like use our E on Caitlyn, beautiful. And if you walk too far forward, you're probably just gonna die. So this is perfect. We're just kind of sticking with our team. I even think you could have walked up a little bit further just to kind of match the Xerath right now, because your goal right now is just to provide that shield as much as possible. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier, playing Annie as an enchanter, using that E, following up with your teammates, and now if they land a stun, you're in a position to follow up. I think you could have played a little bit closer, just like where the Xerath is playing, just because if he's this low HP and he's feeling confident to walk forward, then you probably should as well. But overall, actually a really good team fight by you. Just wish we were there a little bit earlier, but the lane assignments got mixed up and everything. So team fights start to go pretty poorly, looks like. You did mention that Yasuo disconnects or AFKs at some point in time.
Yeah,
I wonder when that happens.
He stayed it out pretty long. I wasn't actually mad at him for it, but yeah, that was bad. That's what I mean. The mechanics are real bad, man.
So, talking about being patient, waiting for the right opportunity, the other team might get bored, and then they misplay. This just looks like you getting bored.
I was really hoping to curve the bear around the wall a little bit, but yeah.
It happens to the best of us. It's all good.
Yeah,
it's funny because you're laughing about it now, and I'm sure you were super tilted in the moment.
No, I mean, I was just kind of going, oh, man. Because the thing is, like, it took me a while actually to get an Annie game that I was willing to even show you. Because a lot of them that I'm playing, I'm going, okay, either like I didn't screw up and I did great, and I was winning, or I had a bunch of really bad ones like that where I just W and miss. But this one felt pretty mixed.
So this year, I want to keep talking about this because this is something I've seen a few times now. This is like something you'll do on most champions in the game, not just Annie. But wanted to point out here. You go in, you use your rotation of spells, you are no longer useful in that fight. Your auto attacks are not doing a whole lot. So, this fight goes okay when we go in initially and get our burst off, right? But then it seems like we're standing still for a couple seconds, auto attacking, and if we're going auto for auto with Kindred, it's not going to go too well. If I had to assume, you're probably staying in this fight auto attacking because your Q is going to be up in 1 more second and you want to get that stun off. But I also think it's okay to back out for just that half second, not go auto for auto with Kindred, and then rejoin the fight with your Q. So look, you get the shield off on Xerath. We use all of our abilities, but look here, we have nothing. We're no longer a champion. Your Q is up in 2 seconds, but for those 2 seconds, you are useless, right? So we go auto for auto with Kindred, and luckily Caitlyn shows up, right? But let's say in a world where Caitlyn doesn't show up, you probably die here, right? So just realize, and again, this is something you can apply on pretty much every single champion that isn't an auto attack based champion. Once you use your combo, back out, stay relevant. I'm not saying like just start running away towards your wolves camp or anything like that. Like back out a little bit, stay relevant in the fight, stay positioned well enough to the point that you can rejoin the fight as soon as your rotations are back up. Because this could have gone very poorly, right?
Yeah, I think my thought process was that as long as... Yeah, it does go quite poorly.
Ouch. Okay. It's unlucky.
Yeah. So, particularly on Annie, one of the big reasons I mean, again, 30% win rate, which is a bit of an aberration. I do have a hard time keeping track of what my spells are, like when they're up. So, yeah, I was thinking of just sort of spamming Q on her. And I did know Caitlyn was coming, and I think I was probably thinking that if I die, it's not a big deal as long as Caitlyn's able to shut her down. But then she had ult as well, so that was just wrong.
Yeah. This game is still very winnable, though. We're down a couple thousand gold. I would like to see some more team fights, ideally, and not people running in and getting themselves killed. Which is, it's so weird to see that this game ends in like 7 minutes or so, because it seems like a pretty even game.
I'm not sure if I remember right, but I feel like I started playing better at this point.
Your comp is a little bad. That's the only thing that's turning me off this game.
Well, Yasuo has, what, a 46% overall or something. It's pretty brutal, man. Oh. There's certain champions like Vayne where I just know we're going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just kind of bad macro. I don't really know what's going on here. Like, everybody's all over the place. Yeah, I mean, Yasuo's over here. Xerath's mid lane. Like, if I'm in this situation, I'm just thinking, okay, let's let Yasuo die. I don't know what this guy's doing. Yeah, I wouldn't want to entertain this at all, to be honest. And this is something, I think I touched on this earlier, right? Where, yeah, it was a fight here where we killed the Aphelios, right? And I said, yeah, I mean, the ulti makes sense. You can get a lot more accomplished with it. It's instant. It can hit multiple people because it's AoE, right? But there are going to be situations where let's just use the Q because it's point and click and it guarantees it. And that's a situation like here, for example. I don't even know if we needed to do anything here because I don't think Malphite is any real threat. But if we want to try to keep the Malphite at bay and kind of keep him controlled, we can literally just walk up and press Q instead of using the ulti. This isn't a situation where like we need AoE because it's just one person. This isn't an instant where like we need it to be as fast as possible because Caitlyn's at risk of dying. We can take the time. It's a little bit slower, a little bit easier to read, and they can react somewhat because it's not instant. But it's okay to just play safer here. So I think this is a situation we could have used Q instead of ulti. But this is fine. They're pretty chunked out. I'm not honestly too worried about them doing Baron here. And we have this here to see them. I would just focus on maybe shoving down mid right here. Because they need to recall, right? If I had to guess, they're probably all recalling right now. I would just be looking to like push this wave out. Like this is a bit of them like trying to say like that they're bluffing. They want you to come to Baron when in reality you guys have vision here. They're pretty chunked out. They need to spend their gold. They're probably on a recall. So you guys are investing a lot of time going towards Baron here when we probably should be going mid, pushing this out. Maybe getting some damage on this tower. It's a little too healthy to say that we're going to get this whole tower. But we push this out and then go get vision and Baron. And that's a habit that I think everybody needs to get into a habit of. Anytime we're like trying to get vision, we want to push out a wave first and then rotate. You guys are actually sitting on a lot of gold. Wow. Neither team has been recalling recently, I guess.
Let's see just here. Me recently.
Now, this is a really good example of what I was talking about earlier, where we don't use vision as a way to say, you know, okay, we have vision on them doing Baron. We have vision on them doing Dragon. We use vision as a way to see where they're going and then capitalize on it. So this word here, I don't even know who placed it, but it gives us vision of Kindred. Beautiful. Gives us vision on Kindred. We're also denying vision. So this gives us an angle when she goes over. I love this. This may not result in anything, but it's a perfect example of what I was talking about. And immediately we are in a winning position because we had killed their Kindred. Unfortunately, it looks like your teammates are a little balls deep.
Yeah, the spacing isn't great.
And Twitch isn't here. But again, a beautiful example of like how to properly use vision. And at least we killed Kindred, the most important person on their team. Think we got a shutdown. Maybe not. But they also shouldn't be able to do Baron now.
That's pretty solid. I think this is where Yasuo said that we weren't going to be able to win.
And as you mentioned, we probably wouldn't be able to take a look at too much of the rest of this game.
Yeah.
Ouch! Just that one last auto.
Yeah. The FF vote was already 4-1. It turns out when you disconnect after voting yes on a surrender vote, it doesn't end. So there's 5 more minutes of us just waiting for the next vote to bump up.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we'll take a look at any of like the mechanics that we possibly could look at. Aside from the ulti flash, which would have made this come out a little bit quicker. But you used your full combo here. Oh, I think you died with your E up. Yeah, that's the only thing. And the best part about Annie's E is you don't have to click it on yourself or anyone else. If you just click it, it'll automatically use it on yourself. Yeah, so dying with shield there happens. Nice try. I like the combo. And then again, I know you said that you were practicing a little bit. Try to practice it in game too. If you mess up, it's okay. The only way to get better is to practice it. Which the game was still winnable. That's so unfortunate. Down 5k.
Yeah.
And it's not like they were snowballing their lead a crazy amount or anything either.
No, they were falling behind too bad. I mean, their AD carry wasn't really very good. So
I definitely don't know how I feel about using the gates to get to the other side of the map, because where are you going to go now? But maybe this was a bit of a for fun play, as the game's kind of doomed with Yasuo AFK.
Pretty much, yeah. Actually, it ended on a pretty rough note for me here.
Oh, no. Surely. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
The bear didn't even get him.
So, as I was saying before the game started, Shurelya's into Rylai's was like the go-to build. I think it's like a staple piece of Annie's support. I think it's what makes it so good. You still get that enchanter item, which helps your shield be a little bit better, which you're maxing that. That's like one of your main priorities when playing Annie. But also the Rylai's helps with, well, it also works with the shield, right? So anytime someone's hitting someone, they're getting that slow off. But also with Tibbers just being able to track people down also makes you a little tankier with the health and some extra damage with the AP. I think that's just like a staple piece. I know with the new items, we looked at Echoes of Hylia that is looking to be pretty strong. maybe the replacement for Shirelia's. And so with that, I don't even see any more fighting, so it looks like a forfeit vote comes through, and that ends things. But I hope that we pointed out a good amount of things in this game. Just to try to recap off the top of my head, not playing too overly aggressive in the lane phase, looking to like try to match your ADC and where they're positioning, playing in the mini wave specifically so you can kind of play up, but avoid that like a Mumu Q. Being mindful of what's the best case scenario if I go for this, what's the worst case scenario if I go for this, and is that a good play for me to go for? Roaming was a big thing. We didn't see you roam a whole lot this game, but try to get into that habit of roaming, getting vision on the backside of your red buff here, potentially even up here, looking to go mid, helping gank with your jungler. There was one situation where the lane assignments got a little bit mixed up, so just trying to have a voice in anything that you can have a voice in, even if that's something like, I'm going mid, swap, you go bot, stuff like that. Using vision actively to see where people are and where they're coming from, and denying vision so that we can capitalize on that. I think this was a beautiful example in this fight here. You were just a little too far behind in that situation for it to actually go all too well for you, but still a really solid example. Getting used to using our rotation and then backing out, and waiting for that rotation to come back up again. There's a couple instances where we could have maybe used our spells a little bit differently to make sure we had our stun up right when we use our spell. I think back to like a play in the lane phase here where maybe if we wait 1 second longer, use our E and then our Q, our Q will actually stun, situations like that. One last thing that comes to mind, and I might be forgetting some things that we talked about, but also, two things actually. One, using Q when we can, like playing things slowly, not trying to force things with the ultimate, because the Q, it might be slower, but it guarantees the stun. And the other thing is just playing patiently. If you find yourself in a bad situation, it might be boring, but winning is fun. So play boring play styles if you need to, if that's going to help yourself win. Wait for the enemy team to get bored, overextend, capitalize on that. I think that wraps up most of the things we talked about. Did you have any questions or anything that you wanted to go over again?
No, I think this is great info, and I'm going to look to try to apply it pretty soon.
Right on. Yeah, thanks, man. Good luck in your games. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks. All right, bye-bye.
See ya.